Okay, so on an afternoon train from Purley to Victoria, 1955. Let's do a few things on the title first of all. Again, it's quite an unusual title for a poem, as I mentioned earlier on. It's very, very, very mundane. So what I'd like to write down, please, are, first of all, this is a daily train. This is not something which is exceptional, it's not on holiday, it's not exciting. It is every single day, the afternoon. Everything about this is just mundane, right? Daily / mundane / ordinary, right? So the experience of this poem is not an unusual one to him. It is his daily life, okay? This represents normal life. Okay, in terms of the details, so afternoon, train, again, just a regular day, right? Totally normal. Purley is down in South London. Okay, South London, very near Croydon. Victoria is in central London, very, very near to government. So very near to Buckingham Palace, very near to the Westminster. So maybe a reference towards kind of government and the government's involvement in how people feel in the country. 1955. Now, I find it interesting because it's published in 1990, written in 1955. So it took him, 35 years to write this poem? So I do kind of wonder, why so long? Like, why did it take him so long to write this poem? Is there a reason behind that? I think it's an interesting thing. Maybe he's reflecting on how things have changed, or maybe how things haven't changed. Perhaps the idea is that there has been no change in society, even in all that time. Again, these are just ideas. We have to read the poem first of all. Okay. As I mentioned, structurally, the poem has no regular stanzas. It has no regular rhyme. It doesn't even feel like a poem when you read it through. Okay, it feels kind of chaotic, kind of fragmented. Okay. Hello, she said, and startled me. Right? Now I like this. To be startled is to be shocked. Right? He's not used to people talking to him. Right? Now, at no point in here does he talk about his race, but James Berry, of course, as we know, is from the Caribbean, right? He is Jamaican, and he goes to the UK in 1948. So he's a British citizen, but he's not originally from Britain. He gets that citizenship through migration. So we know that he is an immigrant. He's not used to people talking to him, right? Hello, she said, and startled me. Now, what I like is hello is just polite, isn't it? It's just polite. So even someone just saying hiya, a nice polite hello, shocks him, right? He's not used. He's not used to it. He's used to people avoiding him or ignoring him on the train. Notice also here there is a lack of speech, which we'll talk about. Okay, so add this, please. No speech. We'll discuss why he does that, but it's kind of interesting, right? Hello, she said, and startled me. Nice day. Right? Nice day. So there's no reason to speak to him. It's just for the sake of it. Nice day, I agreed. So notice here how their two voices blend. Right? So what you've got here is a blend of voices. Which is interesting, right? Because the way that she speaks is the same as the way he speaks. So what you get is this idea straight away that these people are not that different. They speak the same way. There isn't even a differentiation in who's speaking. They say the same words. I'm a Quaker, she said, and on Sunday I was moved in silence to speak a poem loudly for racial brotherhood. Right? So racial brotherhood, we're talking about civil rights. So this is the person who is, she's arguing, I am not a racist, right? I love all people. So a Quaker is a type of Christian. They have lots of different things they believe, but what they do believe is in social justice and about equality under God. That God created all people the same. When she says she was moved in silence to speak a poem loudly, and on Sunday, this is all a reference to the service, the Quaker service. And what happens is, in a Quaker service, everyone will sit there quietly, to sit in silence, until they felt moved. Notice the word moved here, emotion, moved to speak. So she feels this overwhelming urge to say something, to speak, and she chooses to speak about racial brotherhood. So she, of course, is saying that she is a good person, right? She's an ally.
Hello, this sounds fun.
I'm just recording, miss. She's not here. An ally, right? I'm on your side, right? I'm an ally of yours. And you think, hey, that's nice. But let's see how it goes on, okay? I was thoughtful. And I think this is really interesting, right? Afterwards, please. Yeah. I was thoughtful. Now, he doesn't say what he's thinking about, right? So the question I put here, I'll put a question mark here. What is he thinking about? Is he thinking, why are you doing this? Because we assume she's a white woman. There's no evidence she's a white woman, but we assume that she is. So maybe he's thinking, why are you talking to me about racial brotherhood when you are neither of my race or a brother? Right? But we don't know what he's thinking, because there's an idea here that he has private thoughts, that he's not a person who has to share what he thinks, that he has a sense of himself. I was thoughtful. Then said, what poem came on like that? So he says, what was the poem? Right? What poem? Okay? So he wants the details. And she says, one the moment inspired, she said. So does she give him an answer? If I said, oh, what was that poem that you read? I'm interested. Oh, one that the moment inspired me to say. So she's very vague. So is she telling the truth? Right? Is she telling the truth? Or is it a lie? Because it's kind of weird, right? If you've memorized a poem and you stood up and said the poem, what was the poem? She's like, oh, just one that I wanted to say. She doesn't tell him. It's weird. It's a weird moment. I was again thoughtful. Okay? So there's a sense that he's not 100%, he's not 100% trusting her. Not 100%. There's a bit of skepticism there. Inexplicably, now this is where the poem gets a bit weirder, okay? Inexplicably, so without reason, kind of randomly, right? I saw empty city streets lit dimly in the day's first hours. Okay, right. Bear with me here, right? So here, when he says I saw, it's his imagination. So suddenly, he starts to have an imagination. Right? And what he sees is the early morning, right? The day's first hours. So we're talking like, what, 5 a.m., depending on the time. Really early, right? Empty city streets. So all else in bed. Everyone else is asleep. But where's he? He's working the early morning. Okay? Now maybe this is a link to this, the afternoon train. Maybe he's coming back from work because he works really early in the morning. Inexplicably, I saw empty city streets lit dimly in the day's first hours. So we're guessing here this is probably his work, right? And the work is probably quite difficult work, hard work, outdoors work. Alongside in darkness was my father's big banana field. Okay. Now this, of course, is a reference to Jamaica and potentially the farm that he grew up on. So his father had owns a banana field, right? But notice here that we've got ownership. So in Jamaica, his dad owns a big banana field. Right? He grows bananas, that's his business. And he's given that up to go and do these difficult jobs in Britain. Okay? So straight away we would say that owning a farm should be better than doing street cleaning or street work in Britain, and yet in this world it is not. So we do get a sense of the inequality between Jamaica and between Britain, right? That you would pick this job over this job, the present and the past. Okay, so we've got a little bit of past v present here as well. Now this bit here happens, if I circle that, all of this happens in his mind, right? This is what he's thinking about. My life, my father's life, the choices that I've made to come here and build something new. Where are you from? She said. Now that is a very interesting question, isn't it? Because that's a question that seems polite and yet exposes so much, right? Because where could he be from? He could be English, right? But she says that I know you're not from here because of his skin colour. Remember, notice they speak the same way, the same language. So when she says to him, where are you from? What she's saying is you're foreign, right? And in her mind, a black person cannot be, wait please, a black person cannot be British. So there's an idea here that black doesn't equal British. Maybe. She might not be saying that. She might be just being polite. But the fact that she asked that question means that her mind is saying, you're not from here, where are you from? And again, she doesn't know this guy, so she can only assume that he's foreign. Jamaica, I said. Okay? Jamaica. Simple. What part of Africa is Jamaica? She said. Now, of course, what we've got here is a bit of ignorance. So some geographical ignorance. Okay? Of course, it's worth remembering that it also points a little bit towards the slave trade, because remember that originally people in the Caribbean were moved from Africa as part of the slave trade. Okay? Right? What part of Africa is Jamaica, she said? Where Ireland is near Lapland, I said. Okay? Now Lapland is up in the Antarctic, right? It's also where Santa is from. So it has a kind of a bit of a vibe of being a bit of fantasy as well, right? So he jokes, right? This is a joke. But he's kind of mocking her. He's mocking her stupidity, right? She's not a bad person, but she's an ignorant person, right? Where is Jamaica in Africa? The same place that Ireland is in Norway. So the joke is that they are nowhere near. But like I was saying, people from Jamaica originally, historically, were brought over from Africa in the transatlantic slave trade. So there is a direct link between those things. Where are you from? She said. Jamaica, I said. What part of Africa is Jamaica? She said. Where Ireland is near Lapland, I said. Right, notice, she said, I said, she said, I said. They are having an equal conversation. Right? Where both people get to speak. She said, I said, she said, I said. Hard to see why you leave. Such sunny country, she said. So isn't it weird? Why would you leave Jamaica? It's so sunny. But of course, again, this again shows her ignorance, because she doesn't realise that this, it's about the economy, right? So she knows nothing about Jamaica. She doesn't know anything about Jamaica, about what it's like to live there, the difficulties that come there, the poor economy. Snow falls elsewhere, I said. This line I've never ever truly understood. genuinely? Like, I think there's a few things that you could argue. The first thing is she says, it's so sunny there, and he says, snow falls elsewhere. So it's almost like, does he want snow? Like, does he like snow? Does he want to be in a country that is cooler or colder? Or is the snow symbolic of something else? Maybe the snow is symbolic of coldness or a lack of connection. It's a very weird line. It's a very hard line to understand. But again, notice, she said, I said. She said, I said. So sincere, she was beautiful, as people sat down around us. Okay? Last little bit, please. Sincere means to be honest, right? Honest and genuine. So even though she says some things that are pretty racist and offensive, he says there's no meanness in it. Like, she doesn't hate me. She just genuinely is talking to me and trying to communicate with me. She was beautiful. So he finds beauty in her openness, right? He's kind of interested in the fact that she's so open. Open, friendly, but also the way that she doesn't judge him. Okay, now you might be surprised by it. You might go, oh look, she says that's really bad. Oh, she says this stuff, it's really bad. But what he says is, look, like, how do you actually stop a person being ignorant? Like, how do you take a person like this, who doesn't know where Africa is, or where Jamaica is, how do you actually help that person, right? You have to educate them, but you have to talk to them, communicate with them. And that's what he's doing here, right? She was beautiful, as people sat down around us, right? Notice this word, circle this word here, please. Us, right? He makes the point that they are the same, right? They're not the same race or same gender, but they are both humans. So this is a poem that's about being a human, right? People sat down around us. So people are not, it's not weird, in other words, right? It's not a weird situation. It's not weird. No one's like, oh my God, look at these people talking. Everyone just sat down around us, right? It's a regular conversation. And what this poem does, in my opinion, is that it does point out some of the issues the racism under the surface. But ultimately, it's a celebratory poem. It celebrates the potential here, celebrates potential for equality, right? If every single person was like this woman, right, that sat down with this man and spoke to him about himself, if we all did that, then maybe there wouldn't be racism. Maybe there wouldn't be inequality. Maybe there wouldn't be prejudice. So although on the first hand you might think, oh, it's a poem about racism, which it is also a poem that's about hope, a hopeful poem. Okay, I'm going to put the word hope down here as my last note, right? It's a hopeful poem. It's a poem about potentially trying to build something unified. Now, the structure of the poem, as you mentioned, no rhyme, no rhythm, no regularity in its stanzas. The world at the moment is quite chaotic, quite mixed up, but there is the potential for it to be something better and nicer, okay, as time goes on.